For Andrew Bailey, I think.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, it is a pleasure to be talking on this bill, on this appropriation, because this is a very important issue to New Zealand, as a number of the speakers have already alluded to. And I think the debate we've been having is around water quality, which is part of it, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but also what the government's doing around climate change and also what we're doing around conservation. And I'm particularly proud to be able to stand here as the chair of the Local Government Environmental Committee, but also as a blue-green and also someone locally who has done some of this work in his electorate with what we're seeing with what's going on with the...
I am going to get the member to sit down for a second and say that it's really important in these debates when it comes to titles that people are factual, and I think there's a minor thing called an election to happen before the member can claim the title. Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Chair. So, Mr Chair, in terms of the three areas that we're talking about, water, there's been a bit of discussion, and I think some of the reforms that the government has put in place over the last 12 months has been absolutely revolutionary in terms of what we're trying to do with the environment and water claims. So what we've heard today is we've heard a number of people talking about what's going to happen around water, the adverse or degradation of the water quality. Well, in fact, Mr Chair, I'd like to remind you that we are now having this debate because the government has put in place actually the measurement around water courses, so we actually know what the quality of water is. And if we didn't know what the quality of water was, as we have for so many years, we wouldn't actually be having a lot of the discussions. And because we've actually put in place these measurements and we're requiring councils to measure them on an ongoing basis, that is a great start point in terms of trying to remediate some of the adverse waterways that we have in New Zealand. It's not just in the rural areas, it's also in the urban areas, and at least it's an honest conversation. I do just want to acknowledge the $500 million that the dairy industry and the government has put in to cleaning up their waterways, and the further $100 million that was committed earlier this year, which are all good things because we all believe in cleaner waterways. Sir, I just want to also just touch on the wonderful work that Deputy Prime Minister Paula Bennett is doing in the area of climate change. I think the change this year, not only in terms of signing the Marrakesh Agreement, has been a great thing to set in motion. New Zealand was at the forefront of signing that agreement, and to see a 30% reduction below 2005 levels by 2030 is great. I also think her move to reduce the 2-for-1 on the ETS, again, has been a courageous and a good move and a good steer for New Zealanders to know which way we are headed towards minimising our carbon emissions. And also the work that all parties played in the Globe report that's recently been announced about how we are dealing with issues around climate change and reducing our footprint, not only in the areas of forestry, how that can mitigate some of those, but also a number of the other factors that were raised by that very valuable report. And I do commend members of all the House in terms of the work that they did on that area. The final area is the area that Honourable Maggie Barry, particularly in the area of conservation, plays. This is fundamental to New Zealand, protecting our fauna and flora, and I think her work in terms of giving that the life and the money to actually pursue some of the fundamental protections we want to put in place is absolutely to be valued. And her war on the weeds and protecting our bird species, they are both very credible, strong and good initiatives in terms of some of what we're trying to protect. Obviously, kiwi is absolutely important to New Zealand, but some of the other very important bird life we have in New Zealand, the takahe and things like that, some of those programs are wonderful and I fully endorse them. And then we get on to the battle of the weeds. Maggie's list of 10 has been fantastic in terms of trying to reduce these invasive weeds. Again, that conservation is really, really important to New Zealand. We all have a right to make sure that these species are removed from our environment and we move to a situation where New Zealand, it can justifiably continue to be proud of its credentials as wonderful place to live and in terms of protecting our bird life. So, Mr Chair, I just think the work that's very comprehensive over the last year and going forward is a valuable contribution to New Zealand.
Dr. Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr.